Here we go, again.
Yeah, girls. Straight down.
Just a week ago, the world's best big mountain skiers and snowboarders proved that they haven't forgotten how to go big. It was a spectacular opener, and the second event of the 2021 tour will be contested on the same mountain, on the same face. But the weather gods have been busy since the first event. A reset of new snow means powder, new lines, and the opportunity to go even bigger. So, for the second stop of this year's tour, we're staying in the microstate of Andorra, where the resort of Ordino Arcalís sits perched at the top of the Pyrenees, on the border with France. A sizable storm unleashed its fury on the mountains over the weekend, with heavy wind and plenty of new snow, reshaping the venue and offering very different conditions to the first event, held on this face last week. Now the riders need to decide if their lines from last week are still working, or if the fresh snow means they can add a little spice. The Port del Rat face offers the riders a choice between three starting positions. The first two gates remain the same as Event 1, and from these start gates, both at an altitude of roughly 2,600 metres, the riders are delivered into a steep and rocky zone with plenty of opportunities to showcase the spectacular. Start number 3, however, opens up a completely different zone that is a little more open, but offers the chance to create new lines for the judges. The riders are making their way up to the summit. This time it's the turn of the snowboarders to drop first, but before they do, let's remind ourselves what happened last week. In the snowboard women's competition, Marion Haerty's dominance continued. The triple world champion sealed an emphatic win, which puts her in a familiar spot in the rankings.
I tried to have fun, and it was fun to ride, to be here with the friends.
Despite arriving just a day before competition, the veteran Erica Vikander showed her experience, taking second, just behind Haerty. Canadian Katie Anderson rounded out the podium in third. In the men's snowboard competition, the defending champion Nils Mindnik finished in third. American rookie Blake Moller made a great first impression with his first ever freeride World Tour run. He almost took the win at the first time of asking, but in a very tight decision, he had to settle for second behind Britain's Cody Bramwell. Bramwell finished second last year in Andorra and stepped it up this year to take his first ever Freeride World Tour win.
I'm overwhelmed. I can't believe this is actually happening. I'm so stoked.
Looking at the start list, Gigi Ruff is still out with injury. Last year's champion Nils Mindnik would be the last to start in the men's snowboarding, but dropping second, it was Blake Moller, desperate to go one better than last time. After the dream start to his Freeride World Tour career, Blake Moller literally hurled himself into the face, and he was not messing around with clean, fresh snow to work with. He found his way onto this rocky outcrop and managed to snipe a backside 360 into a very tight landing. He then traversed out to the rider's left, and the hallmark of a great rider is taking scrappy features and turning them into something incredible, just as Blake Moller did here, with a frontside 180 to half cab to drop. On that salt and pepper zone, he then kept the afterburners firing up as he launched into this huge cliff. Maybe not as composed as he would have liked in the air, but the landing was perfect, and he made his way into the finish corral with a very, very strong run under his belt. This first feature was absolutely perfect. And then the tidy frontside 180 to big half cab, only just catching the lip. And then finishing with this showstopper Big air out. The judges confirmed that the rookie would be awaiting challengers from the comfort of the hot seat with a score of 92.33. Next, it was the turn of Sami Lubki. 9 years on the Freeride World Tour, 3-time champion. And he found his way just to the right of Blake Moller's line for this little double over the crown wall of avalanche debris. And then you can see the track. He flows his way into a beautiful windlip here and a trademark Sami Lubki grab with a lovely crossbone tweak on it. But then he's managed to shut the speed down and find his way into this very tight little chute with another little ridge there. Managed to sneak in a stale fish. And then using this knoll, an alley-oop 360 to finish. And having made a mistake in the first event, Sami Lubki was back on form. That lovely double at the top, very, very technical. And then the cheeky stale fish on the exit from the tight chute into that alley-oop to finish. A score of 78 for Sami Lubki would slot him into second behind Blake Moller. Victor De La Rue, the 2019 Freeride World Tour champion, is arguably the most rounded rider on the tour, from big mountain Alaska to backcountry kickers. But he paid homage to Blake Moller, following his line into that top hit with exactly the same 360 into the same very, very tight pocket. He then traced the line again exactly out to this feature where he looked to go for the 180. Whether he hesitated or whether he got hung up on a rock, only Victor knows, but that was the only blip in an otherwise flawless line. He then tracked ever so slightly to the left of Blake Moller's cliff and went even bigger off this lip. Only the skiers had hit this in the first event, Victor De La Rue becoming the first snowboarder to claim that drop. And then squeezing every last point out of the run, he snuck onto the end of this feature, popped down into the finish. So some spectacular moments combined with a little bit of drama. There's that 360 up at the top, made that look so smooth. Here's the mistake, just getting hung up at 90 degrees there. So the judges deeming it worthy of a 76, third place for Victor De La Rue. All it took was one run for Cody Bramwell to go from a solid rider in the middle of the pack to a great rider challenging for the title. Now, in his second year on tour, the young Brit has tapped into his mojo and to devastating effect. He billy goated his way down to the top of this first feature, where he's able to drift through a beautiful frontside 360 nose bone. He then closed the speed down and hooked in underneath the triple that we'd seen both Victor De La Rue and Blake Moller hit. Just sliding under there, he then went cross-court into this shady section, punched through the crust and over the handlebars. Timely reminder of just how difficult these snow conditions can be. He also added a huge 360 at the bottom, but it was a Hail Mary for the last of the points. From first to last, Bramwell would finish up in 8th, veteran Sami Lubki finishing in 2nd ahead of De La Rue, but the rookie Blake Moller continues his Dream Tour debut with his first win.
I was just really hopeful, but it's pretty insane that it came to life, so I'm super excited.
Overall, that result sees Blake Moller climb to the top of the rankings. Bramwell leaves a lot of points on the mountain and drops down to 2nd, with the 2019 world champ Victor De La Rue in 3rd. No doubt a brilliant battle of youth versus experience is developing in the men's snowboarding. In the women's category, there is just one question. Can anyone stop Marion Haerty? She drew bib number 1, so would be setting the score for the rest of the pack to chase. And the 3-time world champion appeared to be subscribing to the "if it ain't broke, don't fix it" strategy. She dropped in and immediately set about exactly the same run that had served her so well in event number 1. Even with new snow though, it involved quite a bit of mountain goating to get up on top of this drop. She then had a very steep step down over this crown wall, and you've got to make that left-hander there to cut round, and in amongst the spin drift, she made a lovely frontside air, stomped the landing and was able to track underneath these rocks back out to the same cornice that we'd seen Sami Lubke hit earlier on. Little speed check, and she ollied in there very, very comfortably. Then rather than flowing round to the left-hand side, she came in with a very steep redirect and managed to double through that section. Very strong. Another little drop. And then finished the run with a beautiful method. Another clean set of heels to the face for Marion Haerty. And undoubtedly an impressive score. So technically brilliant to get in there, the control required, and then good speed control for that little drop. So the score comes in 82.33. Big challenge for the rest of the women's field. So second place in the first event, Erika Vikander, the goofy footer. So powerful. Her signature is her control and the power in her turns, reminiscent of those power surfers of the 80s and 90s, Luke Egan and Mark Occhilupo. A very direct line through the top there and a beautiful turn to cut out at the bottom. She then made her way out onto this cornice feature, managed a lovely roast beef tailbone that you can't see on the POV, but we will see on the replay. Then drifting left of Haerty's line, she came out into the open face and set up this double. Put it down beautifully on the full line. Set up one more little ollie, and then like Haerty, used the hip at the end of the line to showcase her method. In the case of snowboarders, every method is like a fingerprint. Each one is an original. So, very clean run for Erika Vikander. But the lack of a big air up at the top would limit her points. There's that roast beef and the method to finish. You can see the fluidity score is very, very high. And that's translated to 72.67. Second place, at least for now. Katie Anderson, the rookie who scored a third place at the first time of asking. Her second event, she barreled into the face, and it's very, very difficult to control speed at the top there. She followed Vikander's line into this tight shoe, but you can see from the amount of slough, she was putting in a few more turns, not quite as direct, but she had a lovely air feature on the exit, which would have already cranked the air and style score that bit higher. She then followed that line, flowing through with a couple of beautiful turns. She wasn't quite as direct as Vikander through the double, but she did make that lovely ollie section and then managed to pop off a couple more features before finding the frontside air where both Haerty and Vikander had thrown down the method. Not enough to reel in Haerty, but would it be enough to beat Vikander? There's that tight shoot, cutting out to the left to get that lovely air. A score of 79.67 and second place for Katie Anderson. So the same names are on the podium as event one, but Anderson and Vikander have swapped places. Once again, it's the seemingly untouchable Marion Haerty who takes the win. In the overall rankings, Haerty has claimed maximum points here in Andorra. Erika Vikander and Katie Anderson are tied on points for second place, with a gap opening up between these three and the rest of the field. Celebrating for now, but no doubt after this, Vikander and Anderson will be going back to the drawing board to work out how they can beat Haerty. Up next were the skiers, and with the sun softening the top layer of wind-crusted snow, conditions were becoming less predictable for the elite men and women. Before the riders take to the mountain, let's have a quick recap of the first day of competition. In the absence of last year's overall champion Ariana Tricome, Norway's Hedvig Vessel made it clear she is the top contender for this year's title. She sent a huge backflip in the middle of her run.
It's a kick, and I like that.
Stomped it and took the win, ahead of Juliet Willman and Maud Bess. In the men's category, Blake Marshall had to ski on borrowed equipment as his got lost in transit. But it didn't stop him from making the podium in third. An impressive 360 into this shoot secured French skier Maëlle Olivier the second spot. But it was a rookie who climbed to the top of the podium. If Ross Tester was nervous, it didn't show. He pulled off a huge 360 and a backflip to take the win in his debut event.
Mainly just to have fun with it, just land my run and just see how it goes from there. And usually that's how it works, so stoked it worked out.
The men are first to drop, and this is the biggest of all the categories, so the competition is always stiff. The winner of the last event, Ross Tester, spiced up his run from last time with a backflip variation, but paid the price. Swiss talent Jan Rosis had banked the highest scored run so far and was sat in the hot seat. Three-time Verbier Extreme winner, one-time overall Tour champion, René Barkrud is now in his 13th season on the Tour. One of the most experienced big mountain skiers in the world, and it shows. He plies his trade immaculately. That backflip was so clean, he barely bent his legs on the landing. He then found his way into this very, very tricky zone, navigated it beautifully and cut out to the left-hand side at speed, sending that lovely drop into the pocket. Effortless skiing from the Swede. He made this look so easy, and then a big trademark drop that no one else had touched. René Barkrud, despite his advancing years, is still as good as ever.
Oh, so nice.
Woo! Let's take a look at that backflip. The landing here is absolutely immaculate. And the speed, he's beating the drone there. 86 points for René Barkrud. The hot seat is his. The rookie Maëlle Olivier looking to chase down René Barkrud after such a successful first event. Made his way out onto this diving board at the top of the face, sent it deep and then opened the throttle. He was able to shut down the speed successfully and then cut to the skier's right-hand side of the face. Tracking through that little double. Again, he was able to control his speed and then thread this very, very tight line and chuck a left three off a right-leaning hit. A lot harder than it looks. He then found his way into that tiny little chute, brushing the rock as he came down into this finish area, squeezing out one last drop and holding on to it just before reaching the piste at the bottom of the face. Pole swinging in celebration, justifiably. A round of applause from René Barkrud, who will sit nervously awaiting the judges' scores for that run. You can see air and style line and fluidity all working very, very hard for the Frenchman. The master is he controlled the speed there, but that line, truly brilliant and totally original on this drop. Something that the judges love to see. Final score of 84 slots in just behind René Barkred.
Yeah, congrats, man. Thank you. Keep the it. Congrats.
Christopher Turdell, hard done by in the first event of the year when he lost a ski. Uncharacteristic mistake from him. Desperate to make amends here. Hasn't rediscovered the devastating form that won him the World Championship in 2018, but it feels like he might be getting close to his best again out of his skiing. A beautiful backflip opened up his run, and then he went into this very technical zone. A quick drop, and then a correction out to the left-hand side here for a long and low drop over those rocks. He kept his speed up as he approached this big setup cliff. Stomped the landing into the pocket, and those light gazelle-like feet skipping their way down into the finish area with a very, very strong run under their belt. You look at these replays and you can see just how precise Christopher Turdell is when he's on form. Lining up every single drop perfectly. He knows how to find fresh snow and avoid the bomb holes. Two Swedes, will they be on the podium together? 89.67. Turdell moved into first. Andrew Pollard was held back in the first event, recovering from a freshly dislocated shoulder, which meant he couldn't really send it. But it was clear to everyone from the first turn here that he was back and he meant business. A huge left three to open his account. And from here, he dropped it down a cog and gave it a handful in what was undoubtedly the fastest run of the day. A lovely double. Then he cut across to the skier's left. Went long and low off a blind roll. And then set himself up for this big finish. Landing heavy in a bomb hole, he was able to hold on and take it into the finish.
Yeah!
No doubt Christopher Turdell was asking whether his stay in the hot seat might be cut short. Look at the replay on this cliff. It is huge. And so is the score, 94.67. First place for Andrew Pollard. Maël Olivier just misses out on the podium in fourth ahead of Tao Kryback, who matches his best ever Freeride World Tour result in fifth. But it's Andrew Pollard who tops the podium.
Pretty sick. I actually didn't think I could win one of these comps anymore with how good the kids and hell, even the old guys are skiing like Reina. Like, it's such a cool group of people, so to win, it's pretty much the biggest honor I've ever had.
With a second and a fourth place finish, the rookie Maël Olivier leads the rankings, with Andrew Pollard close behind in second. Ross Testa, after securing full points in the first event, drops down to fifth. There's too much talent and it's too early in the season to make any calls in the men's skiing, but it's certainly heating up. In the women's field, Hedvig Wessel had tasted victory in the first event and was hungry for another slice of glory, while Elisabeth Gerritsen is looking for redemption herself after randomly losing a ski in the first event. First to drop, Tracy Chubb. The 35-year-old American won the North American Freeride qualifiers at the age of 35 to take her spot on the tour this year. She opted for the less popular start number 3, and hopping out of the gate, she drifted up onto a spine and then cut to the skier's left of the chute, up on top of a closeout cliff band. She nailed the compulsory drop and then arced out some beautiful turns. She looked like a completely different skier to event 1, where she'd struggled He certainly settled down on this run. Started looking relaxed and creative. She threaded this line through the narrow chutes. And then was able to make her way out onto the apron. She got 5th place in event 1. Could she better it? Nice bit of exposure up at the top here. Here's that tight chute from the drone angle. Threaded perfectly. A score of 61.33 puts her in 1st place for now. Elizabeth Gerritsen, aka Gerrit Sender. She does not deal in half measures. A disappointing first event after she lost her ski on one of the biggest drops of the day. Ski women were the last category to drop, and Elizabeth took it steady through this section. Steepest part of the face, which had been completely stripped of any soft snow and needed to be treated with caution. But it got her onto the top of this cliff and a beautiful right side 3. A tiny little back slap, but taking that kind of risk at the top of the face would be a huge boost with the judges. She'd been practicing 360s all week. She managed to nail that one. Found her way down into that tight section and then let the skis run as she came onto the apron. A very fast, very technical run with some great air and style up at the top. A little drop to finish, and Elizabeth Gerritsen had got a solid run down for the first time in 2021. There's the 360, a beautiful pole plant. Actually sending that bottom drop further than she thought. 79.67 for Elizabeth Gerritsen, and you can see what it means to her. 1st place. Hedvig Vessel, winner in Andorra in 2020, winner of event number 1 in Andorra in 2021, riding high on confidence. She overcooked it. Came in far too hot in that zone that Elizabeth Gerritsen had been so careful to make sure she navigated cleanly.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Hedvig Vessel landing on that stripped ice, couldn't control the buck from the lip, and lucky to walk away with no serious injuries. So after a win in event number 1, Hedvig Vessel gets no score in event number 2. Juliet Willman scored a 2nd here last week. Managed to find that lovely little route into the back of this steep section of the face that set her up beautifully. You can see the alpine heritage in her skiing, the control, the precision, and how comfortable she is at speed. A lovely, aggressive approach to the middle of the face paid dividends. She made her way down into that bottom section of the face, a lovely double, and then letting the skis run fast. The drone shot lets you know just how quick she was. There's that double getting hung up on a bit of grass there. And a 68.33, 2nd place for the French woman. Only 4 women actually got scores in very challenging conditions, but luckily everyone finished the day uninjured. Elizabeth Gerritsen managed to put the disappointment of the first event behind her and stepped up her game.
I had nothing to prove. The last time I skied this face, I lost a ski for no reason. So honestly, it couldn't be worse. That was my mentality. And yeah, I decided to spice things up a bit. This was a bit of a mental game for me. I don't come from a freestyle background. Honestly, I learned how to do proper threes this year. So super stoked to pull it out today.
So consistency takes Juliette Willman to the top. She leads the tour ahead of Gerritsen and Vessel. Last year's champion Tricomi couldn't make the trip to Andorra and resides at the bottom of the rankings. As in the men's, the women's category is still wide open as all eyes turn to Fieberbrunn for stop number 3.
I mean, look at this. It's just blowing up around her. Spinning into the double, 180 out and clean. Oh, Cody getting tangled up in the crust there.
Threeing off that right side 3 and landing it. What? No, no.
Look at this, just head over heels. Going for the flat spin.
I just can't believe how easy he makes everything look like that massive air.
No hugging, sir. I love you, bro. That was sick, that last hit.